When you're always available, your value can become invisible. No contact creates space. It removes the constant communication that may have allowed him to take your presence for the lift. Granted, once the silence begins, he experiences what life feels like without your energy, support, attention, and affection. The things he once overlooked suddenly become noticeable. Human nature often appreciates something more after it's gone. The distance forces reflection, and reflection creates clarity. He starts remembering your strengths, your kindness, your unique qualities, and the role you played in his life. No contact isn't about punishment. It's about allowing reality to speak louder than words. When you stop chasing, explaining, and convincing, you give him the opportunity to discover your value on his own. That realization is often the first reason many men return after a period of silence. One of the most powerful things that happens during a period of no contact is that absence creates clarity. When two people are constantly communicating, seeing each other, or interacting every day, it becomes easy to overlook the value that each person brings to the relationship. Familiarity can sometimes cause appreciation to fade, not because the connection isn't important, but because it becomes part of a routine. What was once exciting, special, and meaningful starts to feel normal. This is why stepping away and allowing space can have such a strong impact. When communication suddenly stops, the silence creates room for reflection. The daily texts are no longer there. The phone calls disappear. The comforting presence that once felt guaranteed is gone. In that empty space, memories begin to surface. He starts remembering the conversations that made him laugh, the support you provided during difficult times, and the unique qualities that made you different from everyone else. The things he barely noticed when you were always available suddenly become impossible to ignore. Human nature often works this way. People tend to recognize the importance of something after it is no longer within reach. What was once taken for granted becomes valuable because its absence is now being felt. During no contact, there are no arguments to distract him, no emotional discussions, and no pressure to make decisions. Instead, he is left alone with his thoughts. That quiet reflection often leads him to see the relationship from a completely different perspective. At the same time, your silence communicates confidence. It shows that you are capable of focusing on your own life rather than constantly seeking attention or validation. This shift changes how he views you. Instead of seeing someone who is always available, he sees someone with self-respect, independence, and strength. The combination of missing your presence and recognizing your value often creates a level of clarity that was impossible to achieve while constant communication was still happening. When you stop feeding his ego, the entire dynamic of the relationship begins to change. Many people become comfortable when they know someone will always be there no matter what happens. If a man is used to receiving constant texts, attention, affection, and reassurance, he may start seeing those things as guaranteed rather than valuable. It doesn't always happen intentionally. Sometimes people simply grow accustomed to having access to someone whenever they want. Over time, the effort decreases because they assume the connection will always remain available. No contact interrupts that pattern completely. The messages stop. The attention disappears. The validation he once received without effort is suddenly gone. For the first time, he experiences what life feels like without the steady flow of your energy. The certainty he relied on is replaced by uncertainty. Instead of knowing exactly where he stands, he is left wondering. Questions begin to form in his mind. He starts thinking about why you stopped reaching out, what you are doing with your time, and whether you are moving forward without him. This shift often creates curiosity. Curiosity is powerful because it keeps a person mentally engaged. When someone is always available, there is very little mystery. Every thought, feeling, and action is immediately shared. But when contact ends, the mystery returns. He no longer has access to your daily life. He doesn't know what new opportunities you're pursuing, who you're spending time with, or how much you've grown since the separation. That lack of information often makes him think about you more than he did when communication was constant. The silence also forces him to recognize how much attention he was receiving from you. What once seemed ordinary now feels missing. The compliments, encouragement, support, and emotional investment that were freely given are no longer present. As a result, he may begin to appreciate the role you played in his life far more than he did before. The absence of that attention highlights its value in a way that constant availability never forump. Instead of being focused entirely on himself, he becomes aware of what he has lost and starts questioning whether letting go was truly the right decision. One of the biggest reasons men return after a period of no contact is because growth makes you more attractive. The mistake many people make is believing that no contact is simply about staying silent and waiting for someone to come back. In reality, the true power of no contact comes from what happens during that silence. It is an opportunity to redirect your energy away from the relationship and back toward you. Instead of spending your days worrying about what he is doing, you begin focusing on becoming the best version of yourself. When a relationship ends or communication stops, there is often a temptation to remain emotionally stuck. Many people replay conversations in their minds, constantly check social media, or wait for a message that may never come. Growth happens when you choose a different path. You start investing in your goals, your health, your career, your passions, and your personal development. Every step forward strengthens your confidence and reminds you that your life has value, independent of anyone else's approval. As time passes, people notice the difference. Confidence has a way of changing how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you approach life. It creates an energy that others naturally find attractive. When a man sees that you are thriving without him, it challenges the assumptions he may have made after the separation. He expected sadness, waiting, or desperation. Instead, he sees strength, progress, and purpose. That contrast often captures attention because it demonstrates emotional maturity and resilience. Growth also changes your standards. The person who emerges after a meaningful period of self-improvement is often very different from the person who entered it. You become more aware of your worth and less willing to settle for situations that do not align with your values. This shift creates a powerful sense of self-respect that cannot be faked. When he looks back and sees someone who is healthier, happier, more confident, and more focused than before, he may begin to realize what he lost. The qualities he once overlooked become far more visible. Your success becomes a reminder that your value never depended on his recognition. It existed all along, and now the world can see it, including him. One of the most powerful effects of no contact is that mystery reignites interest. In the beginning of many relationships, curiosity plays a major role in attraction. People want to learn more about each other. Every conversation reveals something new, and every interaction creates anticipation for the next one. However, when communication becomes constant and predictable, that sense of mystery can gradually disappear. Both people become accustomed to knowing exactly what the other is doing, thinking, and feeling. While comfort is important in a relationship, too much predictability can sometimes reduce excitement and curiosity. No contact changes this dynamic completely. The flow of information suddenly stops. He no longer receives updates about your day, your plans, or your emotions. The routine that once allowed him to know everything about your life is gone. As a result, his mind begins filling in the blanks. Questions naturally emerge. He wonders where you are, what you are focusing on, and whether your life is moving in a positive direction without him. Human beings are naturally curious. When something becomes unavailable or difficult to access, it often gains more attention than when it was easily obtainable. During no contact, your silence creates a sense of uncertainty. He can no longer predict your next move. He does not know whether you are meeting new people, pursuing new goals, or discovering opportunities that make you happy. This uncertainty often keeps you on his mind because unanswered questions have a way of demanding attention. The most important part is that mystery cannot be manufactured through games or manipulation. True mystery comes from genuinely living your life. When you focus on your own growth, experiences, and goals, you naturally become less concerned with explaining yourself to others. Your energy shifts away from seeking attention and toward building a fulfilling future. That independence creates an attractive quality because it demonstrates confidence and self-respect. As he notices your absence and realizes he no longer has access to every part of your life, the curiosity that once faded may begin to return. Instead of hearing from you constantly, he starts thinking about you. Instead of receiving answers, he is left with questions. Those questions often become the spark that reignites interest and makes him view you from a completely different perspective. Time apart often creates something that constant communication never can: comparison. When a man is no longer in regular contact with you, life continues moving forward. He meets new people, has new conversations, and experiences different situations. At first, he may believe that moving on will be easy. He may assume that finding another connection will quickly replace what was lost. But as time passes, reality often tells a different story. Every person brings something unique into a relationship. It may be their kindness, loyalty, sense of humor, emotional support, understanding, or the way they make someone feel during difficult moments. These qualities can sometimes go unnoticed when they are consistently available. When someone is always present, people can become accustomed to their value without fully appreciating it. It is only after that person is gone that the difference becomes clear. As he interacts with others, he naturally begins comparing those experiences to the ones he shared with you. The conversations may not feel as meaningful. The connection may not feel as natural. The support may not be as genuine. Small things that once seemed ordinary suddenly stand out in his memory. He remembers how you encouraged him when he doubted himself, how you listened when he needed someone to talk to, or how you understood parts of him that few others did. This comparison is not something you can force or control. It happens naturally through experience. The more situations he encounters, the more opportunities he has to recognize what made your connection different. Sometimes people only understand the true value of something after they have experienced life without it. What they once viewed as common becomes rare. What they once overlooked becomes unforgettable. Memories also tend to highlight the strongest parts of a relationship. As time passes, people often remember the moments that brought happiness, comfort, and connection. The positive experiences begin to stand out more clearly. This doesn't mean the past becomes perfect, but it does allow him to see the relationship with a broader perspective. When he realizes that the qualities he is searching for in others were qualities you already possessed, his perception begins to change. The comparison is no longer between you and the past version of yourself. It becomes a comparison between what he had and what he can find elsewhere. In many cases, that realization becomes one of the strongest reasons he starts thinking about returning. One of the strongest reasons men return after a period of no contact is because your strength commands respect. There is something powerful about a person who chooses dignity over desperation, self-respect over chasing, and growth over emotional dependence. When a relationship ends or communication stops, many people feel the urge to fight for attention, seek explanations, or convince the other person to stay. While those reactions are understandable, they often communicate neediness rather than confidence. No contact sends a completely different message. It shows that you recognize your value even when someone else fails to see it. Instead of begging for another chance, you focus on building a life that does not depend on anyone else's approval. That decision reflects emotional maturity and inner strength. It demonstrates that you are capable of standing on your own, even during difficult moments. Strength is attractive because it is rare. Many people talk about confidence, but true confidence reveals itself through actions. When you stop chasing someone who chose to walk away, You prove that your self-worth is not tied to their decisions. You are no longer seeking validation from someone else because you have learned to validate yourself. That shift changes the way others see you, including the person who left. As time passes, he begins to notice that you are not waiting around for him. You are continuing to grow, pursue your goals, and create happiness in your own life. This can be surprising because many people expect their absence to leave a permanent void. When they see that you have adapted, evolved, and remained strong, it often earns a level of respect that wasn't there before. Respect is one of the foundations of lasting attraction. Without it, feelings often fade. When a man sees that you respected yourself enough to walk away from uncertainty, mixed signals, or a lack of commitment, he may begin to view you differently. The strength you displayed during no contact becomes evidence of your character, your standards, and your ability to handle challenges with grace. The greatest benefit of this strength is that it serves you whether he returns or not. If he comes back, you do so from a position of confidence rather than need. If he never returns, you still gain something far more valuable, a deeper understanding of your own worth. That is why no contact is so powerful. It is not about making someone miss you. It is about becoming so strong, self-assured, and fulfilled that your happiness no longer depends on whether anyone chooses to stay or leave.